Hello, I'm Clovis Casali in Paris, and this is Encore, your daily dose of culture on France 24. His debut novel impressed many, with the Sunday Times saying, "A new literary star is born." He's back, this time with a short story collection called This is the Ritual. Dark but funny, with a twist of philosophy. Nietzsche's never far. Let's go meet Irish author Rob Doyle. Rob Doyle, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Why did you choose this time to write short stories, and what binds them together?
Well, I had spent 4 or 5 years writing my debut novel, Here Are the Young Men, and I suppose in between writing drafts of that, I needed to take a break from the longer form of the novel. And so I started to write lots and lots of short fiction in between, and then eventually I felt that I had a book here, you know, and I could also try out a lot of new ideas, new styles, new voices in short stories that I couldn't necessarily fit into the novel. But they're definitely linked together by certain themes of estrangement. A lot of these are about desperate characters who are, more often than not, are adrift in different parts of the world. They've left Ireland, they've left their homes.
And a lot of these characters are authors. You're an author writing about fellow authors.
Yeah.
Was it easy to do? A lot of these authors are struggling ones. Do you know a lot in your entourage?
I think because when I was writing these stories, I was looking around at a lot of young, maybe unpublished authors like myself at the time, and I found the struggle to be very interesting. And it's great fun to create fictional authors too, because then you can create their novels and their stories and that kind of thing.
So you really made a name for yourself with that debut novel you just mentioned, called Here Are the Young Men. It's the story of disenchanted Irish youths who drink, who take drugs, who turn violent. Yeah. And this time, This is the Ritual is in a way the next step, a tale of post-youth, as you yourself have grown older. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. These are definitely characters who are, so in my first novel, in Here Are the Young Men, the characters were 18, 17, and they were very energetic and destructive.
And angry.
And this is the Ritual is more about characters like this who are still quite alienated and angry and still taking a lot of drugs. There's a lot of sex, a lot of drinking, but they're maybe 10 years older. And so a lot of them are living in the ruins of the kind of destruction I was writing about in my first book.
So now you're touring, you're doing a lot of promo, and as part of your promo, you were at the Shakespeare and Company bookshop, a legendary place just across Notre Dame in the heart of Paris. And we were there to hear you read a chapter of your book. And after it, we asked the public to tell us what they thought about you and about your writings. Take a listen.
Okay.
An amount of youthful nostalgia that I get when I'm reading his work, but I also think that he's sort of relentlessly funny and just interested in being as honest as he can be on the page.
Philosophy and humor is something that I'm working on, and how he mixes that and takes Nietzsche and also is trying to, it's a very dark book about, everything that he spoke about, but finding humor in that is hard for a lot of people.
A good writer writes out of himself. And I think he writes out of himself. It's a very personal and very, I think, very emotive, really, writing. And I think he reads well. So I found it a convincing portrayal of a certain part of Irish society in this day and age. So I liked it.
Rather flattering, all that. And we heard someone praise the way you mix philosophy and humour. And Nietzsche has really had a strong impact on you, hasn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. It was there in the first book too. In Here Are the Young Men, Nietzsche was kind of hovering in the background over the whole book, and it's even more pronounced, I suppose, in This is the Ritual. Nietzsche is an author who I read quite young and was really fascinated, even obsessed by for many years. Still am to an extent. A wonderful writer with I would say, a terrifying and awe-inspiring vision of where the world is going and what the world is. And a lot of the characters I write share my fascination and obsession with Nietzsche.
And I have to say, what's striking is the difference between your writing, your style, slightly tormented, dark, and when we meet you, the personality we come across. I mean, you seem relaxed, you seem very happy in a way, whereas you write about drugs, about alcohol, about depression. And yet, when we take a look at your Twitter account, You post mostly pictures of cats. Can you tell me what's the reason? Can you please explain yourself here now?
Okay, I can explain the cats. I will tell you that last year I lived for 7 or 8 months in Paris. I had always wanted to live in Paris, so I moved over to be with my then girlfriend, a French woman. And anyway, I went to live in an apartment on my own, and I was minding a cat for a few weeks. And I think it's safe to say I kind of fell in love with the cat a little bit, and couldn't help but tweeting lots of photographs of it. Maybe it made me seem a bit sentimental, but there you go.
Well, back to more serious business, back to your book. Many of your characters are in exile. You yourself have travelled a lot. I imagine that you value all that travelling. You believe, I'm sure, that it's important for people to get out of their comfort zone a bit, no?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a personal choice, of course, but for me, I grew up in Dublin and Ireland. Dublin's a great city. But Ireland, it's a small place, you know, and it will always have a little kind of air of being slightly parochial. So as soon as I could, really, I left and I travelled for many years. And it was absolutely maybe the making of me as a writer, I feel, because just the wonderment of opening myself up to the world and different people and languages, cultures. And I think that comes out a lot in the stuff I write now.
And you mentioned earlier that you lived in Paris for a few months. Obviously, Paris has always attracted artists, musicians, writers of all kinds, and throughout history, notably in the 18th, the 19th, the 20th century, with Montmartre, that area, northern Paris, that until the Second World War was practically cut off from the rest of the capital. It attracted Picasso, Modigliani, and Impressionist painters of all kinds. Now, tourists also flock there, tourists from all over the world, and they can go to the home of painter Suzanne Valadon, the mother of another famous painter, post-impressionist Maurice Utrillo. Take a look at this report by Micaela Cabrera. She tells us more about Montmartre and the fascination people have for that neighborhood.
Montmartre, a village in the city. In the late 19th and early 20th century, it was the epicenter of art. This house on Rue Courtauld was owned by Suzanne Valadon and is now the Museum of Montmartre. The daughter of a laundrywoman was immortalized in the portraits of Renoir, Toulouse-Lautrec, and other great painters. By observing the work of these masters, she became a painter in her own right. In these portraits displayed at the museum, she painted her son Maurice Utrillo and her husband André Uter.
In 1909, Suzanne Valadon met André Uter. They fell madly in love. And this started an adventure where these three incredible personas enriched each other not only in painting, but also in living a truly bohemian lifestyle.
It was here in Montmartre where the trio produced their most renowned works. The museum has reconstructed their studio. Suzanne Valadon was 21 years older than André Uter. She was fond of portraying her young husband, as in this painting. Utrillo, her son from an earlier lover, was a notorious alcoholic, but the artist was unmatched in his depictions of the Montmartre landscape. Some of the scenery remains as it was then.
These were difficult places, if not impoverished, but the bohemian life was not a golden era. It was essentially a difficult life. What drew artists to Montmartre was not just the stunning landscape, the pretty trails, the mills, the abandoned gardens, this very unique atmosphere, but it was also because the rent was affordable and the light was beautiful.
Beyond Montmartre's kitschy tourist attractions, the museum tries to recapture the spirit of old Montmartre, a time when the bohemian spirit was alive in Paris and in the artists who lived here.
Now let's talk about something slightly different. You've taken a different path. You haven't given up writing, obviously, but I believe you've become an actor. Can you tell me about this feature film you've taken part in?
Yeah, so for much of last year, I was playing the lead role for the first time in a feature film called Hit the North, which is an independent UK road movie set in 1984. About a hitcher, quite like one of the characters in my books, quite a disaffected kind of drifter who sets out on the road to find his father. possibly to kill his father against the backdrop of Thatcherism in the UK and the collapse of traditional industries and this kind of thing. And it also has the French actress Adelaide Larue as the.
And when can we expect it to come out?
Well, I guess it should be hitting the festivals and hopefully beyond that in the summer of this year.
Right.
2016.
Well, we'll be keeping an eye open for that, obviously. So, like all of our guests on Encore, we asked you to pick a recent book or a recent record or a cultural event that you enjoyed particularly. And you've chosen the film The Danish Girl. Can you explain that decision?
Yeah, I actually went to watch The Danish Girl, this beautiful film set partly in Paris and partly in Copenhagen, the day after my book was launched. So I had a bit of a hangover and I was in quite a receptive mood. And it's a very beautiful, extremely sensuous film. It's worth seeing for the costumes and the clothes alone and the hairstyles. Incredibly lovely film, really. About a true story about maybe one of the first attempted transsexual operations of a painter in Denmark.
Very moving
the 20s.
film.
Yes.
Rob Dorr, great talking to you. Your book, This is the Ritual, is out now and it's published by Bloomsbury. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for the show. Don't forget to follow us on our social networks and, of course, on our website, www.france24.com, in English, French, and Arabic. I now leave you with a clip from that film we were just talking about, The Danish Girl. Enjoy. See you soon.
Could you help me with something?
You will not tell anyone about this.
Hello there. We're going to call you Lily. I want to sketch you. Lily. We should go out tonight. Give them something different. Lily, you're exquisite.